is Zach Curlis with Muzakman Productions, and I have the privilege of sitting down with Kelly Sheafer and Steve Flynn, the two original and standing members in Atheist, a very influential metal band from the state of Florida. How you guys doing today?
Good, Zachary. How are you?
Tell me, guys, how did you get hooked up with the Death to All tour, and where are you guys playing, and what's it all about?
The tour itself was just 7 shows to pay tribute to Chuck Schuldiner, who's no longer with us, who was really the godfather of death metal, and the guys that played in his band over the years. The manager of his band, actually, and Sick Drummer Magazine, which is an amazing magazine that featured my boy here, Steve. They put this tour together as a tribute, and it's also a charity for Sweet Relief, which is to benefit musicians. Because, playing music our whole life, we don't get insurance, we don't have a 401k, we don't have any of these things, and so they're trying to establish something for musicians when they get ill, to be able to, come back and take care of us, because we play music for a lot of years, and so it's a great charity, it's a good opportunity, and since we all came up together, I think that's why they reached out to us to have us come and do direct support. We wanted to do more shows, but we just weren't able to be able to pull it all off, because we have kids now, it's hard. The way they had it structured was just LA, San Francisco, Chicago, New York.
It was scattered about.
It was scattered about, so it was tough.
And I think the connection is just natural, given that Death was in Florida, Paul and Sean from Cynic were in Florida, Atheist was in Florida.
Definitely a Florida connection.
Yeah, it's a whole Florida connection. That's why and given that we were all at the same time in the scene at the same time, coming up, if you will, at the same time, it was a natural, I think, marriage. You probably could have brought in other bands too, like Morbid Angel or a number of different bands, but I think that the technical metal aspect of it is why Atheist would be a part of.
It was an honor, definitely. I mean, and to be honest, we've had our days with Chuck. Rest in peace. In the beginning, he wasn't exactly a fan of what we did.
He was not.
And but he was smart enough, and this is why he's the godfather of death metal. He was smart enough to recognize as an artist that eventually, in the beginning, he didn't, like a lot of people didn't, that what we were doing was really odd and different. It put him off in the beginning, but when he jammed with Paul and Sean, he really kind of recognized how much musicianship was needed for this music to progress.
Scott Burns was very instrumental in the growth of death metal.
He had a vision.
In his work at Morrisound. But my question to you is, like you said, getting booed in Kansas, towards the end of what you were doing, do you think that Scott Burns also had a part to play in the collapse of the death metal scene in the Tampa Bay area?
No.
Because every band started to sound the same.
Oh, I know what
I
know what you're getting at.
It's not Scott's fault, though. It's not Scott's fault. I mean, the Seattle scene was very. You can't blame
I'm not blaming
Butch Vig, for the Seattle thing. I mean, they did what they believed in, and anything that becomes a mainstay becomes redundant to people that aren't that people can't understand the art of it all, and the very beginning of it, and what it means to step out on a ledge and do something different.
Any engineer, producer, studio has a style when it comes to a certain genre of music.
Sure. And
so people went in there, and I think it was the general music consumer who was generally not ready at the time, and it took I don't know, 10 years or so before that kind of music really began to catch on, and Slayer and all these bands began to reach legitimate status. So I don't think it was anything he did. I think it just took a while for people.
But Morrison was the first studio to really capture this extreme metal with articulation. They were able to articulate the bass drums, because all this stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, and they were brilliant engineers. Tom and
I mean,
the guys.
really,
I remember a single that was released by Corner that was produced out of that studio. That really,
Corner was a great band.
like the next step in great production as far as that type of music.
And by the way, before all the electronic and the Pro Tools and the computers and the triggers and the sampling,
2-inch tape.
And you had to sit and play your stuff.
It had to be correct.
I mean, what is played on? Well, I listen to it now. I'll listen back sometimes for reference. The albums we did back then, and I hear just gross inconsistency in my playing relative to what we did on Jupiter, which was also the new recording technologies make things different, right? And I'll listen to Anthrax, I'll listen to Metallica, I'll listen to Slayer, and you can hear the inconsistency in the playing, and that radically changed. The advent of Pro Tools and the advancements in computing technology radically changed.
But not in a good way sometimes.
Well, no, and sometimes, exactly, because a lot of times you're grossly disappointed, but we'll get off on a 2-hour discussion.
There's no real playing anymore.
You too? 2 hours? No way.
So, go ahead.
Playing was really, playing's changed a lot. These kids that have bands today, they're amazing musicians, these kids are. But they also are using Pro Tools in a way that a lot of consumers listening to it are listening to these kids play, and they think, oh my God, But when you go see them live,
they can't match.
They can't do it, dude. And there's an
But
organic quality to it. There are some who can, but
but also the real time live technology is beginning to catch up with the studio technology with triggers and pitch correction and everything else that happens.
But people should know buying the music that when you listen to 80s and 90s bands, those are bands that were playing that shit real. The drums on Unquestionable Presence are played top to bottom live. Right. So when you're hearing that, that's one performance. When you listen to a band of today, you're hearing, much like Metallica made records. Lars Ulrich would do 75 takes of one song, and they would pick the best parts of each of that. That's bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit, Lars. Sorry, buddy. Back in the day, you were the fucking man. But you don't do that shit. 75 takes of a fucing song, fuck you, dude. Learn how to play drums fucking correctly. Don't be collecting checks like that if you fucking play like that. This is a 24-year-old man playing drums like a fucking monster, and it can be done. And there's a lot of great guys. Gene Hoglan, same age as us, monster. He's not half-assing that stuff, and a lot of people just don't know that when they listen to it. And they go, "Oh, I love all the new bands," and it's like,
a lot of people don't understand.
Stand side stage and watch
of records.
Stand side stage and watch them play.
But that's okay.
It's a new era, and it's okay. There are a lot of great qualities to these kids, and we're super proud that we were a part of making them go, shit. I want to play more technical. I want to be more musical. I want to learn how to play the guitar, not like Sodom and Venom. Because that's what it was. It was messy, sloppy shit.
It was garage bandish.
It was a mess.
It really was.
Morrisound was the first place to really to clean it up and
focus it
with
in the right direction.
Obituary's first demo was the one we heard, and we were like, wow. You could hear all the bass drum. You could hear that, and it was awesome.
For me, talking to you guys or asking you any questions would never be complete without talking about Roger Patterson. I was fortunate to know Roger well, and get to see him play and understand.
He's a huge fan of yours,
and he was a huge fan of your band.
I feel honored that on the back of your album cover he's wearing our T-shirt.
I love to be Pete.
And I loved everything about Roger except calling him and having his grandmother wake him up and hear him cuss at her on the phone.
Or having a full pack of cigarettes.
Come on,
and leaving his house and only half of it.
Right? Anyway,
but he's also an extraordinarily sweet.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Roger.
We miss him. It's been 21 years, and we miss him like it was yesterday. So he's still very much a big part of what we do and what kids in Europe do, which is. I listened to a radio interview with you just last week, and you described your newest bass player, Travis.
You described, Travis as being like the closest style to Roger. Yeah,
I did, yeah.
And that you were excited to play with him and actually get to record because you're planning to do some more recording. And then I show up tonight and Tony's back in the band.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised. How was it such an easy decision after?
It wasn't.
It wasn't. But there were multiple things operating all at the same time. One, Travis. It made some decisions in his life which precluded his ability to be able to be a part of the band.
Right.
And
Moved to Canada.
without getting into his personal life, right?
Right.
He made some decisions that, and we thought, all right, that'll be all right. And then, but also when it came time to start writing the record, Kelly and I talked a lot about this back and forth, and we have a long history with Tony, and Tony's a brilliant musician.
He's amazing.
But what really came down to was the experience and the maturity, and when you're writing something, right? And Tony's ability to be creative and think and
He's a rhythmic
construct
monster.
and make me better, by the way, because he has this style and this ability that I don't, and he makes as a bass and drum section, which Atheist is known for being bass and drum centric, right? He has a way of making me push boundaries that I don't and I can't.
And how crazy is it to hear Steve Flynn say that? For all of us who sit back and watch you play, it's just amazing to hear that come out of your mouth.
So you won't meet a more humble guy. I mean,
I agree.
He has no
I agree.
idea,
I'm
what
a sloppy mess half the time. I'm the first person
Okay.
to say it. But Tony makes me better, right? And
Yeah,
so
he's inspiring.
and there's a maturity in the songwriting, the experience that it really. And Tony called us. Tony said, "Listen, I wanna do it. I
I want to make
really,
this new record with
really
you guys."
want to
That's
do
what we
it."
intended to do in the beginning
Right.
with Jupiter.
Yeah.
We were all together. Tony was very busy doing some Latin pop stuff that he had been working on for a number of years. That took his time, and we weren't able to get together with the record. And we found ourselves 8 months in with a due date on our record. Like, fuck, Either we get a new bass player or we'd write it without a bass player, and so that became the decision. And it's not that we didn't love Tony and Tony didn't love us. It's just that he made that decision. He made himself unavailable. We weren't able to do it. We continued on with and made a record that we're proud of. But it's not bass geared like the typical Atheist record is. Now that we've gotten back together, this next record is going to be stupid. It's going to be stupid. I mean, it just is. There's no way it's not going to be. Me and Steve have written records together. Me and Tony wrote Elements together, which is still one of the weirdest. It's a weird album out. It's as we call it, the redheaded stepchild of our catalog, but it's still a very forward-thinking kind of record. And when we first made it, I remember magazines were like, and what's funny about it is when we go to Eastern Europe, like Poland and Romania and Czech Republic, they love that record, and there's no double bass on it. It's all very groove orientated. It was and tons of Latin stuff on it as well. There's bossa
A lot of
nova.
Latin influence.
Yeah. Tony had a lot of Latin,
jazz influence.
Yeah, and so, but the other albums are so different. But then coming back and doing Jupiter was really a continuation for me and him of Unquestionable Presence. What we would have done had we not had that
break. Tell me how it is being in the metal music scene and booking these tours and writing music in studio time and trying to raise children, because
I'd say governor. It's a governor on what we do. We got to have a lot of fun. As guys for a lot of years, and having children now. I'm sure Steve would agree that there's not a as much as we love touring and playing. You can walk out in front of 40,000 people, and it feels like nothing else except being a daddy. When a little girl walks up and tugs on your pants and needs you more than anything in the world, that blows away 60,000 people. It just does, and always will. It should anyway. And for all the asshole guys that aren't with their kids, fuck you, asshole. It takes a lot to be a daddy, and we gave up a lot to be daddies. We could go and spend all of our year in Europe. We could go play there.
It's the reason we don't. Our record label was angry, and we did. We can't tour and travel.
Can't go out for 6 weeks. We're not doing it. We're not gonna.
250 days a year. We just can't. And largely, I mean, I have a job that also isn't music, but it's also my children that I can't.
Can't do
And
it.
I literally can't. So it's either you disappoint them, or play another festival for 60,000.
You can't get that back with those kids.
You can't exactly.
They're only going to be this for a while.
It's been a difficult road. We've had to work a lot. Our promoters, our tour agents, our record labels, they've struggled with it as well. But there's also reality. The good thing is, we mentioned it a moment ago about technology coming into music. There's a reality too that you don't have to tour 270 days a year, and I don't think we want to. Like we'll do a 10 or 12 day run or 13-day run.
And we come home and we recharge our batteries and we go back with
and yeah,
youthful
you want to,
enthusiasm. You do 12 shows and it's like, all right, asshole, I'm tired of smelling your feet. I'm fucking tired of seeing
I
clothes
wanna
on the
get
floor. I'm going home, my
out of
little
there.
girl, and I'm going home to my little girls, and we recharge our batteries. We'll go back out the following month for
Reset.
another 8 days.
There's nothing like living in a van with 3 or 4 other guys.
Oh,
right?
it's wonderful.
And there's nothing like
Try a
living in
bus
a van
with 18 guys, man.
Right?
18 guys that don't shower very often. Fucking horrible.
Yeah, so it's a combination of things, but we've made it work. There has only been a few times over the last 6 years of reuniting. It's funny to say that we've had conflicts where our personal lives or professional lives interfered with our music life. For the most part, we've been really smart with structuring it and being able to do it. We've had some times, mostly falling on my shoulders with we had to not do shows here and there, but for the most part, we've been able to make it work.
I think it's important to note that you're a neurological market researcher, which is a little fucking odd. So it's a very important job, and it's a career. I mean, it's something you can't. It's not like you work at 7-Eleven.
Especially when you got kids.
Yeah,
and kids.
And a mortgage.
You got to worry about that.
Kids, mortgage,
when you're
college,
trying
all
to
that
support
shit.
kids and play.
We wish all this
music.
We wish people would have got our music when we were 20 years old. That would have fixed all their shit. But it took 20 fucking years for everybody to figure it out. Oh, wait a minute. This music deserves to be here 20 years later.
We
but
were
didn't, so.
the record label was pissed at us, but you know what we told them? We said, listen, we're extremely passionate about it. We do it because we just love to do it. We do it because we're really good friends. We do it because we love to write music together. So I think we do it for all the right reasons. We're not just because we're not making money, right? I mean, we do make big money, but it all goes towards
because we do it the way we do it. It costs $8,000,
$10,000
for us to go and come back,
go come back. Exactly. So we do it because we're passionate, and it's like I liken it to being a chef or being a winemaker. If you get into it for the wrong reasons, you're always going to be disappointed. There's only a handful of Madonnas and Metallicas and Rolling Stones in the world. I mean, there is. Right. There's only, we could sit here.
Out of 100,000 bands
We
that
could
get started.
count on our hands the number of people who last more than 5 years.
Even back then, from what you certainly would call rudimentary songwriting, like Undefiled Wisdom.
Oh God!
Right? Like as rudimentary as that may be, no one in
good
our
for you for
area,
remembering that
no one in our area had a stronger work ethic than you guys did.
Oh,
You guys practiced 6 nights a week.
Yeah, and we were angry on the seventh night.
And you guys practice,
we sat at home on that
for
seventh night.
a solid 3 or 4 hours a night,
arguing,
6 nights a week.
bitching.
You went through a handful of guitar players. The Mark Kid, that you met through Eric Blackman.
They used to be
ran out, back in, out, back in.
In our town, which is important to note, there used to be we would pull into practice. There'd be 80 people at our warehouse. Now Crimson Glory played there, who was also
the Little Rascals played there,
enjoying Pigpen.
Right, Pigpen.
In Crimson Glory, a great thing to mention about Bradenton is that Atheist and Crimson Glory playing in the same place together. And now, all these years later, we just played in Essen, Germany, and at the club there was a marquee, and in the marquee was Atheist headlining with our tour, and next to it was Crimson Glory, and I was like, man, that's fucking Bradenton, Florida. 2 bands out of Bradenton, Florida, 20 fucking plus years later that have made an impact on the European bands, these young bands that are coming up. That's amazing.
And an impact on me was Zach's band.
Listen. Yeah. If you don't know, you need to know. This fucking kid was on fire.
Remember that first show we played with them at that
Club
barn? No, it was like in that barn thing. The first time we saw.
Remember this.
It was a fucking
the barn that chick that I was kind of hanging out with.
Well,
the Celery Barns.
I don't know what it was.
It was a barn.
But it was the first time we saw you guys play.
Right.
And
we were like, wow, holy shit. Ron Miller.
Ron Miller. I mean, say no more.
Well,
Ron Miller.
the whole band. It wasn't just
No,
Ron.
your front man. I mean, ability was.
Hellhole. I can still play Hellhole, by the way.
That's
I play
crazy.
it sometime when I'm warming up. Hellhole.
I still think you should
taught
make
me
another
how to
album.
play.
Well,
Taught me
do
how
it.
to play fast. By the way, it was Ron Miller and your band that taught
We
me.
shared a warehouse together for a while.
we did, man.
Yeah.
So-
Those are good times, man. A lot of people in Europe would love to know what went on in Bradenton, Florida. There's so much good shit back
You know
there.
what else is odd to me is that Belching Penguin, Crimson Glory, and Ravage, later Atheist, were all represented at the Old South Oyster Bar as well.
We're